Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movies and discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Keenan.
The force will be with you, Heidi, always.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and every word you just said was wrong.
Indeed, everybody. It is that time of the year. Christmas time? No. Hanukkah? No. Kwanzaa? No. Not even Festivus. It's Star Wars time, everybody. And we have another Star Wars review for you this year because, hey, why the heck not? Today we're going to be covering Star Wars Episode VIII, The Last Jedi, written and directed by one Rian Johnson. We'll talk a little bit about that in the not too awful long, man. And let me tell you, this movie, guys, before we get into it proper, holy cow, you want to talk about dividing. I don't think I've ever seen a Star Wars movie, cross these kinds of lines before. It's been something else, I'd say.
I've been saying that was going to be the case here since I first learned Rian Johnson was going to be the writer-director of this movie. There was no way that this movie was going to be something where everyone was going to go, wow, that's the best one ever.
So you're saying it's polarizing?
Completely.
Okay,
and it's got to be.
When Adam said he never saw a Star Wars movie that had people reacting like this, I'm thinking, I've seen some that people reacted poorly to. He must mean polarizing.
I meant polarizing. Maybe that was a word that was in my brain that didn't come out my face. That's a possibility.
You know, one of the things about it is that, because I was remembering back, I can remember being a kid, because I think I was in second grade when Empire Strikes Back came out, and I can remember kids not liking Empire Strikes Back, like coming to school the next day and being like, I didn't like it. I don't like this movie. And it's only years later where people are like, oh, well, this movie's awesome. Because we know where it goes, like after you know where the movie goes to, then everyone then retroactively really likes Empire Strikes Back. Kind of like Paul's Boutique with the Beastie Boys.
Oh.
When Paul's Boutique first came out, not everyone loved that album.
Which, ironically, I just listened to that album again this weekend, and man, it is so good.
Yeah.
And then Return of the Jedi was kind of the opposite. I never met a kid who didn't just love Return of the Jedi, like best Star Wars movie ever. And, over the years, people probably feel like that might be the weakest entry in the original three.
Right.
It's all about who you are, where you are in your life, and all that kind of stuff. Because, we're looking at, if you really want to think about it, 3 generations worth here of Star Wars. So who's to say, man? Now, the critics have given it quite good. The fans, maybe not so much. But the real question is where do we fall? Because, let's be honest, there's only one important group here, and it's HMP.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
No, okay, good. So let's jump in because I'm sure we're going to have a whole heck of a lot here to talk about. Here is the trailer for Star Wars The Last Jedi.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now. Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be. Going to go the way you think.
Show me my place in all this.
Let me tell you, I'm super stoked that I stayed away from that trailer for as long as it was around, man. And because not that it spoiled anything, but it just, it's a smart move, everybody.
I still haven't seen the trailer, and I've already seen the movie 3 times.
Here is the IMDb plotline. Rey develops her her newly discovered abilities with the guidance of Luke Skywalker, who is unsettled by the strength of her powers. Meanwhile, the Resistance prepares to do battle with the First Order. This is written and directed by Ryan Johnson. I don't know why I want to say Brian. Ryan Johnson, starring Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaacs, Andy Serkis, Lupita Nyong'o, Donald Gleason, Anthony Daniels, Gwendolyn Christie, Kelly Marie Tran, she's a new one, Laura Dern, Benicio del Toro, and more. So we've done quite a couple of Star Wars things here. So let's see where he goes with it, shall we?
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Bruce, what do you got for us?
I think it's time to talk about Sith, or as the classic 90s song taught us, let's talk about Sith, baby.
Oh, boy.
Is that how it goes?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, the Sith are a Craterocratic organization. And do you guys know the central philosophy of Craterocracy? Man, that's a hard word.
That's got to do with Bitcoin,
Craterocracy?
Right? Bitcoin.
What?
It's all Bitcoin, right?
Craterocracy? No, that's something else.
Well.
I know what it is, but you should tell everybody else what it is.
Perfect segue.
Good move.
The central premise of Craterocracy is that might makes right. And members of the Sith Order are characterized by the desire to seize power by any means necessary, which means that back in the day when a whole bunch of Sith were running around, they spent so much time infighting that nobody had any resources to dedicate to kicking rotten Jedi butts. So in order to correct this, a wise Sith named Darth Bane introduced the Rule of Two. Now, the Rule of Two states that there shall only be 2 Sith at a time, a master and an apprentice. One to embody power, one to crave it. The system would reach its ultimate conclusion when the apprentice would slaughter the master, become the new master, and recruit a new apprentice. And this worked well. It allowed the master to conceal his identity while apprentice went out and did all the dirty work. Darth Bane himself had an apprentice named Palpatine. Maybe you've heard of him. Now, obviously, or at least I hope it's obvious at this point, people understand that the Sith tend to draw on the dark side of the Force. And what is the dark side? To have a dark side, one assumes there must be a light side that the Jedi serve. So I guess the dark side makes it a mortal sin to love someone. Nope, that's the light side. Maybe the dark side yanks literal babies from their mother's bosom to train them in a militaristic order free of familial influence. Nope, that's the light side again. Okay, let's try looking at it another way. The dark side encourages creativity, where the light side encourages adherence to law. The dark side thrives on passion, and the light side thrives on detachment. The dark side encourages subtlety, whereas the light side encourages bold demonstrations of power. Are you guys getting the idea that if I had Force sensitivity, I would be Sith?
Oh,
I can't imagine anybody's really surprised by that, right?
No.
Now, remember, when an oligarchy transitions to a monarchy, only the oligarchs suffer any real loss. So please, feel free to call me Darth Bruce, the benign overlord. So in truth, the Force has no dark side or light side. It's not like the moon. The Force is simply an entity with no sentience, no desires. It's like gravity. Is it the dark side of gravity when one falls off a cliff? Is it the light side of gravity when you recline for rest after a hard day? The light side and dark side are artificial entities solely defined by the individuals utilizing the Force, not the Force itself. The dark side of the Force never seduced anyone. Hey, the dark side was asking for it. Did you see how tight his pants were? No. Now, Chris Rock once said, you don't sell drugs. Drugs sell themselves. Mm-hmm. And the dark side doesn't offer come-hither glances to lonely sailors. The Sith recognize the potential within themselves, as well as what colossal jerks the Jedi are, and come to their own conclusions. Now, Sith masters certainly seduce their apprentices, but that's like blaming the eyeliner for the actions of John Barrowman when he puts too much of it on. And that's right, I called John Barrowman out on the carpet, but gosh darn it, I love that saucy minx. Now back to the Rule of Two. If Vader killed Sidious at the end of Jedi, then died himself, the Sith died with him, right? Now, we know that the old extended universe showed us that Vader was not above taking on a secret apprentice. For reference, see Starkiller, a.k.a. Galen. But I don't think Snoke is Starkiller, though that would explain the name for his Death Star 2.0. So the question is Snoke really a Sith? Who trained him? Where did he come from? His mere existence seems a violation of the rule of two, though he seems to attempt to reestablish it with Kylo. Is Snoke a real Sith Lord, or is he more like Charlemagne? And I'm talking about the Frankish king, not the rapper. Now, the Pope declared Charlemagne the Holy Roman Emperor in the early Middle Ages, but nobody's mentioning him in the same list as Octavian and Julius Caesar when discussing Imperial Rome. And yes, I know Caesar never called himself Princeps, but he was for all practical purposes the first emperor of Rome, so suck it, Augustus. Anyway, I fear many questions about Snoke will go unanswered. Well, unanswered until I publish my Snoke fanfic titled Snokey and the Bandit, due out sometime in early 2019. Look for it on pirate sites everywhere under the clever pseudonym Darth Bruce, the Benign Overlord.
You are quite the benign overlord. I will definitely say that. Now, for those of you, when we have big release shows and everything, we always get like a bevy of new listeners to the show and everything. We want to let you know right here and now there will be spoilers for all the Star Wars stuff. So if you have yet to see the movies, thanks for the download. Come back here when you finished it, or unless you just don't care about being spoiled. Hey, stick around, man. I'm not telling you what to do. Before we get into it, though, let's have a quick little recap here of our thoughts of the last Star Wars movie. Sean,
I liked it.
Yeah, okay, Bruce. So you were a fan. Anybody take it?
I'll take it. Yeah, I like the last one. The last one was made specifically so that people like myself, who grew up loving Star Wars, can love Star Wars again. So they basically just remade Star Wars with new people in it. And that's fine with me. Like, I know what that is. I know why they did it. I'm not angry about it. And nor should anyone. It's mass media, But with that being said, we needed something different for this one. And we'll get into that in a minute. But I really like the characters. I like the new characters that they came out with the first movie here, with Episode 7. And to see, and so really what I wanted to see was how are they going to make this different than what they did with the original trilogy, and so that's where we're at. I mean, how different are they going with this? And here we are.
Yeah.
And Adam, Sean, both of you, I've got a question. There was some talk about this movie being polarizing, and I'll say that I saw a lot more negative comments after Episode 7 than I did after this one. If anything, I would say that the mere lack of conversation in the areas where I dwell probably says more than anything else. But I don't know if people are being very respectful of spoilers compared to how they've been in the past or what. But I haven't seen a whole lot of negative here. The big negative after the last one is kind of a recap of what Sean said, is that it felt like a reboot of Episode 4 more than a new movie. But this is definitely not a reboot of anything that's come before, if you ask me.
Right, and it's the second act of the new trilogy, wherein also any 3-act play structure. The second's going to be the darkest of the three. So it does have like kind of that in common, but that's just more that goes back quite a long time before Star Wars. So I don't think
that's screenwriting 101.
You know what I'm saying?
But Bruce, to go back to your original thing where you're not hearing a lot of negative, I'm hearing a lot of negative from people, and a lot of it, I think, just judging by comments, is that it's from people who were Star Wars fans, just so deep into Star Wars that like they know even the holiday special by heart, and they know like the Ewok adventure stuff by heart, and it's not that. I mean, this is not what this movie is.
Let me guess. Let me see if I can guess what some of the complaints are, because I can see where it introduces newness into the world of Star Wars, and sometimes introducing newness will cause disdain amongst some fans. But there's sort of some new force powers introduced here that we haven't seen in the previous 7 movies. Is that part of it?
There's been a little bit of that.
There is a little bit of that, but mostly the biggest complaint is that it doesn't feel like Star Wars.
Right.
You know, that it's something completely different.
Any chance those were the exact same people that complained Episode 7 felt too much like Episode 4?
You want
Episode 7's too much like Star Wars. Well, Episode 8's not enough like Star Wars.
Dig on this. At the end of this, right now, like when Episode 7 came out, everybody was like, J.J. Abrams stinks. He's the worst. Look what he did to Star Wars. Bar the door. Don't allow him back here ever again. After this one, people are now clamoring to let J.J. Abrams back in to finish up Episode 9.
And for all those people that claim they hate Abrams, I'll just point out the biggest weekend ever in the history of a movie is weekend 1 of Episode 7. The second biggest weekend is weekend 2 of Episode 7, and this one is weekend number 3 that we're talking about now. So all the people that hated J.J. Abrams hated him so much, they apparently had to see it multiple times on consecutive weekends to make sure.
I think that when it comes to JJ, because I think he's a good director. I love his direction. I think that he is not a great movie writer. And I think that he is great at finding the thing that people love about something and finding that. Whereas Rian Johnson is great at making something out of whole cloth. You know, I know one of the stories that came out was that Kasdan had an outline for Episode 8, and Rian Johnson asked if he could scrap it completely, and they said yes. Kathleen Kennedy said yes. And say what you will about this movie, even the people who hate this movie love the ending to it because that's what Rian Johnson does. He makes amazing endings to movies. And correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't he already written Episode 9, or he's in the middle of writing Episode 9? He's just not directing it.
He's I think he just okay. One more time. I'm not sure I caught that at the end.
Is Rian Johnson writing Episode 9?
I don't believe so.
I thought that he was. I thought that he was in the
middle
of it.
Initially, I think he was going to until this whole new. You get another. Hey, you get a trilogy, and you get a trilogy kind of thing.
Also,
down.
I think it might be like one of those free for alls where everybody's welcome to submit their ideas, and they'll pick a winner kind of thing too.
As is my understanding, as we record this, JJ has just actually given his kind of story as to what he believes the next one should be. Whether or not he ends up being the one writes that, or Kasdan comes back again, who's to say?
And at the end, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy still has like the veto power, right? Like I don't imagine Rian Johnson could just decide to kill Luke without Kathleen Kennedy saying it's okay. And I don't think Rian Johnson could let Luke live without asking Kathleen. Like there's some big strokes that are in her hands.
Sure.
You're right. Yeah. If anyone thinks that, they just let him go and let him do absolutely anything, you're wrong. You don't know how the system works. They have some ideas and some like, I'll give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Maybe you should do something else instead. I'm sure he was given plenty of power, but he's not given pure absolute power, I don't believe.
And go ahead, John.
I have a crackpot theory because of this movie. And it's this. I think that when they saw what Episode 8 was going to be, Kathleen Kennedy and the powers that be at Lucasfilm, I think that they realized that this is going to be something that is going to be derisive. I think that they knew that it was going to split the fan base a bit. And so knowing that, that's when all the other things start happening. Like, oh, we need to bring in another guy to help fix the ending of Rogue One. Oh, we can't have the two guys ruin the Han Solo movie, so let's bring in Ron Howard to make it feel like it's one of ours again. Mm-hmm. And I think all of that started happening after they saw what Episode 8 was going to be. I really do.
That's I like that. That's not a bad insight. I would not be surprised if that's 100% correct.
Wow, I never thought of it in those terms. Then again, I don't know. Well, when I saw the movie, I'll be honest, what I thought was that Rian Johnson's first goal was to make a good movie, and the second goal was to make a good Star Wars movie. And there were some parts where I felt like, man, this almost feels like when I was a kid and me and my cousin would play with our Kenner Star Wars action figures, the kind of things we would come up with when we were playing. This is a little bit like fan fiction, but it's really good, and I like it, so I don't care. And then I started thinking, well, I don't know exactly how old Rian Johnson is, but he probably played those exact same scenarios with his own cousin and the toy AT-ATs firing at the Jedi and saying, oh, but he doesn't die because of Jedi power. I mean, when we were a kid, you did the same thing, Sean. A Jedi could do anything if it served your own purposes for your in-story plot of the game you were playing.
Oh, for sure. Not only that, but I when I was a kid, I didn't think Han Solo was the better character when I was young. I thought Luke Skywalker was the way better character. It was only till I got older and like girls and stuff that I realized, oh, Han Solo is actually way cooler. But it took puberty basically for that change to happen. But as a little kid, Luke Skywalker could do anything, like you said.
At 4 years old, I bore a striking resemblance to Harrison Ford, so I've always liked Han Solo better. I outgrew that, awkward stage, but that's when I was 4.
That awkward
stage. Sean, you're like me. You're in this group of people that saw all 9 movies, and I'm throwing Rogue One in there, so people don't call me out for saying 9 when it's only episode 8. But you saw all 9 movies first run on the big screen, just like I did. And you're also the kind of person that liked them at 3 or 4 years old and didn't start liking them retroactively in middle school or something. You know what I mean? You didn't like them after they came out on home video. You were like me from day one. You were on board this, and you've seen all 3 movements. And I think for people like us, you're able to mentally divide what I call BPM and APM, before Phantom Menace and after Phantom Menace. So I think the people who lived through the anticipation, the denial, the eventual disappointment, and then the acceptance, sort of the Kubler-Ross stages that we all went through when we watched the Phantom Menace, that now I think we want a good movie first and a good Star Wars movie second. And people that say this doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie doesn't understand just how disjointed it felt to go from Return of the Jedi to the Phantom Menace. Talk about not feeling like a Star Wars movie. To go from this dirty, lived-in, run-down universe to the cleanest CGI green screen you've ever seen was really jarring for me. Was it for you?
Oh, completely. But the other part to this is I know that everybody hates Phantom Menace now. And I'm one of these people. I don't like that movie. But when it came out, I saw that movie 8 times in the movie theater. It wasn't until later that I was like, you know what? I don't think I like this movie very much.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To like it so much.
Those Kubler-Ross stages, denial comes first. Yeah. There's bargaining, denial, shame, and then eventual acceptance. It's all that stuff. I went through it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I was very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Judgmental wise, I was very apprehensive to be judgmental about episode 7 because I remember episode 1. So I didn't want to have the same thing happen where after I saw the movie, I walked out of episode 7. I was like, we've got Star Wars back. We've got Star Wars back.
Yeah.
But does that mean I like it? Do I like this movie? And the answer is now, we're now almost 3 years removed from that movie coming out. Yes, I really like episode 7. I still do. I think it's great.
I rewatched it again before the day before seeing this, and I think I've seen it, including theater times, probably 6 or 7 times at this point, and I like it more every time. And and because it gets that it's just New Hope redux and everything. Yes, and absolutely no at the same time too. It's really good.
And I'll something I'll say about episodes 7 and 8 as far as sort of balancing the scales a little bit. And I'll use Adam as an example. You may not know this, Sean, but sometimes Adam can be a little abrasive.
What?
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Personality-wise, he can be tough to tolerate, but he's so darn handsome, people put up with him. So he's got that one redeeming quality. His handsomeness is enough that we'll tolerate anything out of Adam just to be close to him. And this episode 7 and 8 have something that is so good that I'm willing to look past the rest, and that's Daisy Ridley, the character of Rey. I'm so curious about that character. I'm so enamored with that character's portrayal, her acting performance, the way it's handled, the casting choice. I think everything is so wonderful with that, and I want to know how Rey's story plays out, that I'm willing to put up with a whole lot of the other stuff that some people may not like as much.
And
Rey may be the very problem people have. I don't know.
I'll go further than that, Bruce. I think that the 3 mains, your 3 main new characters are all great. I love them. I love Rey. I love Ben Solo. and I love Poe Dameron. I think all three of those characters are great.
Well, there are 5 principals, just like before. I mean, you also got to talk about Adam Driver and BB-8, and I probably feel equally about Adam Driver and BB-8 as far as I like BB-8 as much as I like Adam Driver.
Oh, I don't know about that. They're both pretty great.
But I did name check him. I mean, that's been so.
Yeah.
You know, like I think he's so interesting, and we'll get into it when we start getting into episode 8 here. But his character arc in this movie. Some people, like, if you're not paying attention, people will go, well, his arc doesn't make any sense because he keeps jumping sides. He's not jumping sides. He absolutely has a character arc that makes sense for that character once you realize what he's doing. Anyway, yes, BB-8 is another character. Who's the other character then? If there's 5,
there's Finn, Poe, Rey, BB-8, and what's his name, Kylo.
Yeah, Finn. And Finn in episode 8 is lacking.
Yes.
He is.
In episode 7, I mean, it might be weird to say because Han was in episode 7, but I felt like JJ was trying to tell us Finn was our new Han. Or not Finn, but Poe was our new Han.
Oh, yeah,
and,
of course.
Yeah. And boy, I get those two confused because you may not be aware of this, but there's a whole lot of Finn Poe shippers online, so I get their names switched sometimes.
There's a shocker, and I kind of like how we listen. I'll say this, and then maybe we can get on into it. One of the things that I like about this movie that a lot of people, I guess, don't, is that it took everything that everyone talked about for the last 2 years and said, "Shut up."
I do like that.
I love that.
I also like we got a whole lot of story in this movie. We got more than I expected in a single episode in the Star Wars universe.
Longest Star Wars movie to date. So,
and it wasn't. It never felt bloated. It never felt long. I never felt like they were dragging anything out. I felt that they were given a solid, genuine, earned beats, and that we got a lot more story than I expect from an episode of Star Wars.
Not only that, the other thing that this movie has is it has so many ideas in it. You know, that's another thing Rian Johnson brings to the table is there's a lot of things that you never, or at least you might have casually thought about before or not thought about at all that he brings to this universe. Like what happens if this happens and what happens if this happens, that sort of thing. And there's a lot of that in this movie. And that's why I love it so much.
And I'm going to ask you too, Sean. I know you've said before that Rian Johnson's like one of your favorite writer-directors out there. And is it Brick? Is it Looper? I mean, I haven't seen Brick. I saw Looper and thought it was good, but I don't know that I was like mind blown by it or anything. I'm just curious, like where your love for Rian, like what the seed of that is, and how you see that to help me understand it a little bit better.
My favorite movie of his is this very, very small movie called The Brothers Bloom, and it is incredible. And the reason why it's so good is the writing. Directing too, because I mean, you know, you get both with Rian Johnson. He is just an amazing director, but the writing specifically in Brothers Bloom is so well done. It's basically a heist movie, but halfway through the heist movie, there's so many twists and turns that I literally thought to myself in the middle of it, the first time I saw it, how is this movie ever going to satisfy you ending-wise? Like, there's no way that this movie is going to have a satisfying ending. And not only is it one of the best endings to a movie ever, but it blows you away. And it's satisfying, and it's emotional, and it's amazing. And that is why I love Rian Johnson so much. Is that movie there, you realize not only can this guy have like 15 different balls in the air and not drop any of them, but he can also satisfy you as a viewer and not treat you like an idiot. Like, oh yeah, that's right, we had that one other thing, but who cares?
And Sean,
I gotcha.
Rian Johnson plays into a lot of the history of me and Sean. So Sean and I, like, we knew each other. I think we were friendly, but I don't think that, like, it was until, like, one night after comedy at a bar or whatever, we started talking, and he, we had both bonded over our love of what Rian Johnson does.
Yeah.
So, and that's what really kind of put us down the path of super friendship. It was like, oh, you like that as much as I do? Because no one else at that time knew who he was.
Okay.
So to find somebody
I haven't
else
seen
that
the Brothers Bloom. I haven't seen Brick. I've heard that Brick's interesting, but I haven't heard like overwhelmingly positive stuff about Brick. I saw Looper. I liked it. I had fun, but it was just a fun time travel movie. You know, I wasn't life changed by it or anything. So I was just always curious where this admiration came from.
And
because,
I'm a big fan.
I see movies.
I'm a big fan
I watch
of
movies
Brothers
through a different
Bloom.
set of eyes than you do.
But Brick is my favorite, and I like Brothers Bloom a lot. But Brick is my personal favorite. So like, and I'm a big fan of old school noir and stuff. To see that brought into 21st century high school and stuff was really really cool. So I mean, I recommend all of his stuff, man.
Yeah, I like Joshua Gordon-Levitt, so I like I give it.
You'll do anything just to get letters written into this show, won't you?
Levitt is in this one. He's in episode 8.
Yeah, he's slow and low.
Yes, he is.
Oh, that's the best way to have the disco. So, all right, that's a Beastie
That's
Boys
the tempo.
reference. Yes,
that's the tempo.
Yeah. Well, man, this movie, do we want to jump into it? Because I really, really want to get into some Kylo Ren discussion with you guys, because I know Sean's got thoughts. Adam never has a shortage of thoughts, but he likes us to express ours first so he knows what he thinks in the opposite direction.
Exactly. Wait a minute. It only took you 3 years to figure out how this show works? Jeez.
It only took me 3 minutes, but I didn't say anything till now.
Nice
Let's
guy.
Let's start with the opening sequence to this movie, because it's something that we've never seen in a Star Wars movie before, which is an actual military battle happening with actual movements of a war that you would have in a fleet. A prank phone call, a battle that starts with a prank phone call. Could you ever imagine like I just want to know what George Lucas would think is a funny prank phone call, because it would be atrocious, wouldn't it? Yes, it would.
Your hydraulic refrigerator is running.
Exactly, just like Kermit the Frog. But I love the way. First off, it takes a lot to make this scene work. It has to be well written. But man, is it Domhnall Gleeson?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it Domhnall Gleeson? Just his man. I like the guys that can just go over the top with their acting. And boy, the flourishes he puts on that fancy boy foppish accent of his when he's answering Poe. It's ridiculous that you're calling me now. And then he goes, "Yeah, Hux, is he there? I'm still holding." I love it, man. I love the way that Poe yanks Hux's chain and how he just buys into it until like his lieutenant or whatever tells him he's tooling with you, sir. Like this feels a little more Doctor Who than it does Star Wars, and I loved it. The phone call.
Now, I think this would be interesting.
Agreed.
If it goes like, because we've had one of these Poe things for 2 movies now. What if this is like his thing? That's what I would love to see. Because at first it was you talk first, do I talk first? Who talks? What's going on here? The next one is just like hello, are you there? What's it like? I want this to be his thing.
I also like the idea of military at odds that actually are willing, a dreadnought willing to have a conversation with a single fighter. Like the whole idea of that is just ridiculous to me. Like, don't there are other channels of communication, diplomats or something. I think we're the shoot first. The New Order seems like a shoot first, have a conversation later kind of people.
Your Highness Greg would like to talk.
One of the things I love about it is that it's the same thing as Tony Stark did in the first Avengers movie. He's stalling for time.
Yep.
There's a reason why he's being goofy. It's not just that he's being goofy.
Chris Pratt challenging Ronan to a dance-off.
Yep.
Also,
because I'm distracting you giant turd blossom. One of the second best line ever written in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. The other one, of course, is Strax's. You know where I'm going.
Oh, I do. I know. We all know.
The movies are 2 for 2 on turd jokes, so they got me one over.
Put that on the poster, James Gunn. 2 for 2 with turd jokes.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, there better be a turd joke or I'm coming for you.
I think you're okay.
Yeah, man.
But this whole bombing the dreadnought is cool. And something that Star Wars did really well in episode 3 or 4, 5, and 6. And I think some of it was accidental just because of limitations of special effects at the time. Then it totally went away in episodes 1, 2, and 3, but it's back now, is sort of the anachronism that like we have spaceships that fly, but they've still got really old-fashioned targeting systems. Like it looks like they still depend on actual visualization, eye contact, like a bomber in World War I would. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love that. I love seeing the bombers just getting ripped to shreds once the fighters show up. Like you said, it really feels military, and we get this interesting story about a character we've never met before, and we're not going to see her again because she's going to die at the end of this. And it really just had nice tension. I'm into it. Will she get her bombs dropped or not?
Well, not only that, but the military movements that are happening in this scene are actual and make sense. Whereas when you're watching something like episode 3 at the beginning, and there's all those ships fighting like outside what you're watching as the main plot line, those ships outside, they're just firing at each other. Like there's no movement, there's no reason for it except for let's shoot at each other
and make it look cool.
With this scene, there's actual reasons for why people are in the positions that they're in, ship wise. Like and what a great job by Rian Johnson just to show you the action. Exactly where everyone is, why they're doing everything they're doing. And I didn't know that he had it in him, quite frankly. I didn't know this was something he could do. And it's terrific.
And I don't want to be the person who like looks at the physics and breaks it apart and says it doesn't make sense because it looks good, the aesthetics work well, the story's engaging. The idea that we have faster than light speed, but we still have to physically drop the bombs directly overhead. They appear to be gravity-driven bombs that are in the vacuum of space. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm not going to point that out, but I love the feel that we have to stretch our resources so that we're putting everything we've got into the hyperspace traveling capabilities and the shields on the big ship. So these other things are essentially just forklifts with bombs on them. The space equivalent of strapping a bomb to the front of a Jeep and putting a brick on the gas pedal and letting it go into the enemy from the old days.
Me, and you're right, because that's a big question that people are just like, well, in the vacuum of space, these things would go everywhere. And I like how also at the same time, they don't take the time to sit there and tell you, look, well, we have each one of these has an artificial gravity thing that pushes itself or a rocket or some other. They just go, shut up. It's a movie.
Well, they're going to leave that. They're going to leave that for the extended universe. I mean,
somebody's going to write a book about it.
It'll be in a book coming out soon. Yeah. The bombs were actually made with blah 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 blah.
Well, my answer is this was a long, long time ago where the Force existed in space and space wasn't a vacuum.
There you go.
And maybe ships generate their own gravity field that brings things towards them, and so it's like, shut up.
Now here's the first.
The ship does a flyby on the bridge there, and the windows rattle. That's great. That's just cool. I don't care who you are. That's cool.
And I mean, X-wings look great, but the whole idea that you need wings at all, you just got to go with it. You got to go with it. It's the rule of cool, man. Yeah. The rule of cool counts for a lot. But here's where the first little bit of conversation about Kylo Ren comes in, because he takes his own TIE fighter out with a team of TIE fighters to attack
the big ship. Which, by the way, looks awesome. Awesome. Best TIE fighter since we've had since Vader and everything. Looks so cool.
And he kind of uses his Force sense to know that his mother, General Organa, Princess Leia, is on the bridge, and he has his fingers on the red button. And then he's not the one that fires the projectile that takes out the bridge, is he?
No, he takes his thumb off at the last second there. But he
Which
did
is
talk
great.
about it. Yeah, I love it.
The first time I watched it, I missed that. I thought he's who fired it. I thought he's sticking with this theme. I want to kill my parents. But then I like it that even bad guys love their mama too,
Yeah.
But cool. Not only does he make the moral decision to spare his mother, but the two guys right behind him just do it anyway.
Ain't that something, though? You'll bomb mama, or you'll bomb dad right out the sky. Just stab him right in the chest. But mom, you give a break, huh? Dad getting the short end of the stick again. That's how it goes.
Who took him to hockey practice every morning? It wasn't Han.
It was Luke at this point.
Yeah. I don't want to play space hockey, Luke. You sound like me in episode 4. Shut up.
Smack, smack.
But then, Laura Dern, because, Princess Leia out in space. I want to ask you this, man. This is something that didn't work for me. She's out there, she's crystallizing, then she sort of turns around, sticks out her hand, and floats back into the ship. Something about that looked campy. Like, it did look kind of, I've already made the Doctor Who comparison favorably. I'm going to make it unfavorably here. Her flying back into that spaceship had a certain BBC quality to it that didn't work for me.
It is a little dopey, but, it's Princess Leia, man. You're gonna give. I give it to her. It does look dopey.
And is that does that serve as confirmation to us that she's force sensitive, or did she just serendipitously drift that direction?
We know she's had this since Jedi.
Since Empire Strikes Back.
Well, even
Yeah, but I didn't know if that's what we're to infer she's doing here, or if they expect us to think she just drifted back in.
No, it's the Force.
No, she's doing it herself. But the big thing is that, like, it's weird for me because at that point I was just like, oh, I kind of thought that was a cool way for her to go. Like, I thought that, okay, here's where we're cutting it, but she's clearly in it a heck of a lot more. But part of me was just like, oh, well, that was kind of it was melancholy, but it was also not with a giant bang, if you will, to a degree.
And also, let's give it to the makers of this movie that they had a total out to get out of the Princess Leia stuff.
Right there.
And that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to make their movie instead of like, oh, well, the reality of the situation means that we have to cut this scene. They didn't do that, and I thought it was great.
And could have taken could have taken, everything that was in, post that and made somehow, rejiggered it to, having episode 9. I don't know.
Yeah. But they're totally just playing it straight. What we get, this is what we get of Carrie Fisher. They're not going to pull any camera type tricks. They're not going to pull a crow on us in episode 9.
So they say, but yeah.
So, hats off to him. I kind of expected her to die in this, because of not only the meta knowledge, but also Han died in 1. I figure she dies in this one. They save Luke to episode 9 to die. That's kind of how I thought it was going to play out, but I thought wrong.
It made sense from a thought perspective. I took the same.
I think we all said that for our review of Force Awakens.
Man, what do you think about Laura Dern, man? Bringing her out and giving her some blue hair.
Boy, did I not know Laura Dern was in this, man. And I loved it.
I had no idea about 2 big names that showed up that I didn't know were in it till I saw it.
I thought she was great, bringing her in and everything. She and because she's Laura Dern, I think she has like a gravity to her and a stateliness that kind of works for the role she's given.
And man, I don't know the actress's name, but for some reason I really liked this other lady that was like the right-hand woman of Princess Leia and of Laura Dern. Like, she really felt like she belonged in the original trilogy. You know what I mean? She had that sort of definitely not Hollywood good looks, but she's turning in a solid performance, very believable. You know who I'm talking about?
Like the it's not. Nah, I forget.
It's a lady. It's a character that's in the new books. Because but I can't remember which book it's in. Maybe Bloodline. But and that character exists.
Yeah, I'm talking. I mean, she's got a prominent nose. If you need help figuring out who I'm talking about, but I liked her.
Yeah. Now was she in? She was in 7, right?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Was she the one that was taking care of Chewbacca and just gave him the?
Nope. She's not the one taking care of Chewbacca.
That's a different one. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, Laura Dern, man, she plays this admiral character pretty good too, because you don't really know, is she playing straight? Is she good at her job or not? I like the way that she really gives us every opportunity to not believe in her, and then shows herself to be actually quite deserving of that role. And it's interesting how that can work out sometimes in real life.
And it's a neat thing that they're trying to show you here too. I mean, because eventually you learn what her motivations are, and it's basically it's a neat thing that the movie's trying to convey to you that sometimes being a hero isn't the right move, and that's what that's what that character's trying to tell us here. And it's such a great little plot device.
And I also like it that the Resistance is a place where you can trash the executive offices, pull a gun on your superior, and still have a job.
Well, now they're down to
so dramatically.
Well, now they're down to how many is it? 300 people, something like that.
So how much worse off would they be with 299? I'm just saying.
When it's the best pilot in your fleet, you're going to let him get away with some stuff.
Who on his last sortie destroyed your entire bombing fleet? It's one of those weird things. Like, you can see
Also
both sides
true.
of the argument. Yeah.
Also true.
I do love the scene where Leia says, you can't solve every problem by jumping in an X-Wing and blowing something up. And they go, oh, no, look, it's the Dreadnought. He goes, permission to jump into an X-Wing and blow something up. And she's
Great.
like, granted.
Love it.
Man, and I love it. I mean, I miss Carrie Fisher so much. I hate it that she sort of left the world a little too early, but I love it that she spent so much time smoking because that voice of hers is awesome now.
Yeah, it's great.
Listen to me. She should be like Patty and Selma of the Star Wars universe.
I think that's why she's speaking in a whisper, because if she speaks in a regular voice, it will sound like that.
There are two different moments here though where she does have kind of the voice is a little different. The voice is a little bit clearer and crisper on one end than the other, for sure.
And then we get introduced to the MacGuffin of hyperspace tracking. Suddenly the First Order has found a way to track through hyperspace, which gives them an excuse to send Poe and this new character, Rose. I'm sorry. I keep calling Poe Finn and Finn Poe. It sends Poe. No, it sends Finn. My goodness, I'm dying here.
Look at the guy who looks like he looks like Alex. He looks like the actual author. So put them together. Come on.
There's an author named Finn?
He looks like Edgar Allan Poe, so why don't you just...
I thought you were talking about Huck Finn and Jim or something.
Huck
I thought you were going classless.
Oh, my gosh.
Anyway.
Oh, wow. You went... No.
I'm better off calling him FN2817 because I'm not going to confuse that one.
There.
But anyway, Finn and Rose go to the casino planet because I do love that even though the Star Wars universe is changing a little bit, planets still only have one thing. Like if you have a casino, that's it. You're the casino planet. You have a mud puddle, that's it. You're the mud puddle planet. I love it that it works that way. So they get to go to the casino planet on what I will call a Raiders of the Lost Ark mission, because people have very clearly pointed out that nothing Indiana Jones did in Raiders of the Lost Ark changed how the movie ended. Like if he had just stayed in bed, it would have ended the exact same way. Well, this whole mission that they go on doesn't matter. Like if Finn and Rose had just decided to play Yahtzee for 2 hours, everything would have still ended the exact same way.
Pretty much. Now, you've seen it a couple of times because that was my biggest thing while watching only the one time here is I really wanted to go back and rewatch to really calculate things out to see if indeed those two actually needed to be in this movie at all.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, yes, because I enjoyed Rose's character, a new character introduced that I absolutely liked her enthusiasm. I liked everything about that character.
I liked everything, but except for the one, and we'll get to that later.
Okay. But I don't know. We probably ought to talk about Rey and Luke. That's why everybody went to see this movie, because we're finally going to get to actually see more from Mark Hamill than just a weird stare at the end of the movie,
Yeah. I think that is where most of the people have a problem with this movie, is the way that Luke behaves during about 90% of this movie.
Can we talk honestly about Luke, guys?
Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Like specifically episodes 4, 5, and 6. Me and a good number of folks that I consider to be Star Wars fans on par with me agree that Luke is an absolute whiny jerk. He's annoying as heck. He's like, he's a hero in spite of himself rather than due to himself. You know what I mean? I think Luke has always been a pain in the backside. So why should that change just because he gets old?
Yep. Luke's been a wiener character. We all know that.
I disagree. Yeah. I disagree 100%. I totally and utterly disagree. I think that when he is a farm boy, I think he's that way. I think that when he is being trained by Yoda, he is that way. But everything after his first fight with Vader, I think he turns into the guy that we all wanted him to be.
Yeah, it's really true. When he gets back in there and he has that confront, and even in Jedi and stuff where he's going back, giving the little back and forth and stuff with him.
Only in Jedi
different.
does he stop whining, and the only reason he stops whining is because we have to ask ourselves: is he going to go to the dark side or not?
Maybe, but I feel like he's more in control of everything than he's ever been at that point, and that's what also kind of gives him that edge to where he's not that character anymore.
One thing that this does share with The Empire Strikes Back is it shows it takes almost no training to improve your Jedi abilities, because Luke got almost no training on Dagobah, and Rey gets even less on Achu 2, which I can't believe they called a planet that.
God bless you.
Exactly. But man, here's the question though. The real question is that green milk an upgrade or a downgrade from the blue milk back on Tatooine?
First of all, let me ask you this, because I've done a little research
Straight from the teat, guys.
And I can't find it because I see a couple things in here. Do we know if Rian Johnson is a vegan? Because there's about 4 or 5 things in this movie where I just go, I think Rian Johnson's a vegan.
Actually, I think he only does Atkins.
Because like there's a like when he's getting the milk, there's like a look on his face that's really weird. There's another one, I forget exactly what they are, but there's about 3 times
when Chewbacca's eating the bird, the pigeon.
The bird, there you go. That's the other. That's another one. And there's one other one I forget. But there's a couple times where I'm just going, I think Rian Johnson might be a vegan. I don't know.
But man, the green milk, upgrade or downgrade from the blue milk? I got to know your answer.
Give me blue milk every day.
I love everything about this scene. Squeezing it straight from the teat into his water bottle. Then he takes the drink and gives a look that can only be described as mentally unstable homeless person on the corner who's just peed in his pants. Like that's the look he gives to Ray while he takes after he takes a swig of that green milk. It's like,
it's
I will tell you that most of my audience was horrified by that scene.
My favorite scene of the movie, I think. Well, second favorite. But yeah, watching Luke here on Atchu 2, makes me think how as a kid I always wished I looked more like Luke Skywalker, and how as an adult I'm sad that I kind of look a little bit like him now. Like I never got it together at the right time. But when did Mark Hamill get a lisp? Is he just like putting that on for this show?
He's always had it.
He's always had that, yeah.
The Joker doesn't have that.
Well, he's voice acting, and when you can voice act and
can he not voice act as Luke? I mean, I almost felt like he's putting it on just for effect.
Mm-hmm. He's always had a lisp.
Man, I'm glad the Joker didn't, I guess. But anyway, it doesn't bother me. I was just curious about it because I've seen episodes 4, 5, and 6 a couple times. Never picked up on the lisp.
It's because I don't know. George Lucas.
You weren't looking for it.
Yeah.
By the way, also when he takes that swig of green milk, I find it interesting that it looks like he's went to great pains to get his upper teeth whitened and just doesn't care about the lowers.
Isn't that how it works a lot in Hollywood, though?
The shiny white upper teeth and the dark brown lower teeth on Mark Hamill.
That's Hollywood, though, man. You'll see those upper chompers look great, but then like I've been smoking on the bottom.
I always wondered if he's like, I started to wonder, is he a guy who's been like rubbing snuff for 30 years and we never knew it? He just puts it in that lower lip.
That dude's definitely
that would explain
smoker.
the list.
I mean, make no mistake about it.
Oh, man. But anyway, I like it. I like it. He gets the lightsaber. The first thing he does is just toss it over his shoulder and walk away. I like persnickety old man Luke because I see a little bit of myself in that character.
I was about to say,
leave me alone. You want me to teach you about podcasting? I'll teach you 3 things. Podcasting needs to end.
Amen.
I also like it. He promises to teach her 3 things. I watched the movie multiple times and he only taught her 2. And somehow those 2 managed to help her.
Yeah, I just barely.
But we get this whole concept of Rey and Kylo doing this Force intercom thing. That's another kind of new Force power. We're getting new Force powers introduced here.
I mean, Leia and Luke kind of talk back to each other on Bespin and stuff. So I mean, it's not that that's an impossible thing.
I'm not saying that I got a problem with it. I just feel like it's introduced new and to a level that it was never introduced before. I mean, the straight on Skype call where she asked him to put a towel on and everything.
To me, I like that. It's a great storytelling mechanism for me. And
it works for me too.
And I like how he's just like, I can see you, but I can't see around. I can't see where you are. I thought that was a nice, interesting little touch.
Yes,
but it seems like he is
cool.
He is able to see Luke though when he walks out of the stone hut.
Right, and he's like, she could see everything that he was, but he only saw a limited amount of stuff. Very, very smart writing there, I think. And
I like it that they're, I don't know if they're subtly or not so subtly telling us that essentially Kylo is nowhere near Rey's power. That's something I've loved about this. Even in episode 7, they made it pretty clear that she is extremely more capable than Kylo is. The only thing he has on his side is that he's actually had some training and he has like an entire empire's worth of military forces behind him.
I think of the movies that we've seen, these two have been, while somewhat unchanneled in a way, have been the strongest Force users we've seen as of any of these live action movies. because he certainly had one. I mean, if you look at the beginning of Force Awakens there, he's, with the stopping of the blaster and everything, and just being able to hold it, like, forever. Right?
Yeah, he did do that, but it was almost like he got lucky, or that was his one trick, because, I'm jumping ahead in the movie here, but there's no way that a room full of Crimson Guard give Darth Vader any concerns.
He also, to go backwards for a second here, the other thing that Kylo has that Rey doesn't is he has purpose. There is purpose behind all of his movement, whereas with her, it's sort of like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. Well, and so that's totally helpful.
And if you watch back, and I watched back, and like, because I went episode 7 crazy and everything, and so I watched a couple other things. There's a episode on YouTube of a channel which I support on Patreon, and you should actually watch. It's called Movies with Mikey, and there's an episode about The Force Awakens, and they show a whole big thing. He shows a whole big thing about how, like, in the woods there in episode 7 where he's fighting and everything, he's not actually attacking her. He's going at her, but he's not, like, actively trying to hurt her. He is, like, so he was holding back during that entire thing. He was advancing, but was never, straight attacking, and she was just defending. So there's a lot going on there that's not just, that we're not seeing on the surface.
Say what you want. It's the first time in her life she'd ever held a lightsaber, and she defeated him. So, I'm just saying she is far more competent than him. If for no other reason, she has her house in order between the years.
But he wanted to bring
has
her
her
over,
act
though.
together. Kylo Ren is a nut job. He is really having a lot of internal emotional issues. The guy doesn't know what he is. He understands he's just a pale shadow. He is the Charlemagne, not the Augustus. You know what I mean? He understands that he's just pretending to be Darth Vader, that he's never going to be Darth Vader. He has a whole lot of mess going on, whereas she simply knows what she needs to do, what she wants, and she's going to do it. And there's no question, there's no turmoil with her.
I respectfully disagree, Bruce. I think that he knows exactly what he wants. I think that he wants to rule the universe, and I think that that's every single step he makes in episode 8. Is every move he makes is about getting more power throughout the entire movie, and I think it looks like
I still think he's like the guy that's trying to be his hero. I don't think he necessarily genuinely knows what he wants, but he knows what somebody else wanted, so he's going to do that and try to convince himself that that's what he wants. I'm reading it totally differently. I think he's a mess. I think he's incompetent. I think that when that final confrontation comes in episode 9 between him and Rey, it's not even going to be close. I think it's going to be made clear that she is just outclasses him in every aspect.
I disagree. I think that she is going to outclass him, and he's going to end up winning in the end.
That's what I'm saying. He's holding back because he knows that he wants her on his side. That's the majority of stuff. When you go to 7 and 8, he's holding back because he knows that he needs her by his side.
And, Darth Vader knew that he wanted Luke by his side, but he was still able to win and make that clear. He still managed to cut the guy's hand off and make it clear. I just take any situation, the way that Kylo's handled it, and put Darth Vader in that situation and just see how much more competently it goes down. I think a lot of the fun of it is you have essentially have a 5-year-old petulant child with every resource in the world available, and that's what makes him dangerous.
Yes, I do agree with that. I think that he's
the Kim Jong-il of the Star Wars universe.
It's very good. Very good. I think that between the two of them, yes, that Rey has far more power than Kylo does. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he is. I think that he's far more clever than she is. I mean, just in that scene with Snoke, she wouldn't have thought of that,
Yeah, and I do like it that they are sort of following the Sith patterns, but I also, in my own mind, I like to think that Snoke was never really a Sith, but he kind of learned about the Sith, so he's trying to mimic them, but he just doesn't quite have it, because there's no way that with Darth being infinitely more capable than Kylo, he still couldn't have pulled that maneuver off with Palpatine.
Agreed, and I also think that I think they're trying to set a new precedent for Jedi here, and this is the first step towards that. I think that at the end, we're not going to have a light side, dark side thing. I think we're going to have, there's just people who can use the Force.
And that's kind of what I was getting at with my whole intro there, is that people are Force sensitive. Like, you can kill the last Jedi, but that doesn't mean that there won't still be a ton of Force sensitive people out there. My whole argument is that these people probably aren't really Sith. They're Sith the same way that Civil War reenactors are Civil War soldiers. Like, they can be as period accurate as they want. They can have all the right formations. They can do everything just like that regiment did back in 1863. But the fact is, they are not the actual Confederate or Union Army.
Unless they're a time traveler.
Even then, they're just someone fish out. They're Captain America in reverse then.
But okay, so we talked about him a couple times. Let's lean in on Snoke here, because and we can also transfer this into some of the other thoughts that happened right around this time. That was something that I liked throughout this entire movie, which was Rian Johnson and maybe Star Wars as a whole saying, "Shut up, Star Wars fans," and I think a good way. So Snoke turns out to really be kind of nobody. We don't learn where he came from. He's dead, and there you have it. Once again,
that's what the EU's for. We're going to learn a whole lot about Snoke. I mean, we're going to know Snoke's family tree going back 27 generations before it's all said and done. And I'll say I'm still curious about Snoke, and I want to know about Snoke, and I want to know more about Snoke, and that's probably a good thing that I want all those things. But I do like it that there's no big reveal with Snoke. He just dies, and that's it. But I still have my own canon. Like I said, when you read Snokey and the Bandit, you're going to find out that he started off as just a low-level rogue that stole some book about the Sith and kind of liked it and tried to be his own version of a Sith Lord.
And he's got to get the cores to the East Coast.
It's I don't know, Alderaan cores. They don't make it anymore since, bad times fell upon Alderaan.
You've got to get the last case over to across the something or other belt.
He's got to get it there in less than 12 parsecs.
And then,
so what? But what do we actually know about Snoke? Like, I mean,
nothing.
Yeah,
we know that he's incredibly Force sensitive. I mean, his telekinesis seems to be spot on.
Mm-hmm.
We see that he doesn't.
We know he's from the Outer Rim.
We do
know that. Yes, because they even mention it in the first movie, that he's from far away is basically what they say, and there's been some sort of trauma to him because that face is completely messed up. So
which, by
something
the way,
happened there too.
Looks great.
Now,
and Andy
using
awesome.
Accessing some of the Force lightning. That's what it comes down to. We learned this in the history of Darth Sidious. Accessing Force lightning does causes disfigurement of your face, and you can use a glamour to cover it up, but then that takes away the power you have access to for more Force lightning. So I think that it just goes to show he's not formally trained, because he went a little bit off the rails with the Force lightning too early, and then he got all messed up like that.
Oh, I like that.
And he's incredibly Force sensitive, not well trained, but incredibly Force sensitive, because he's got the telekinesis down. But he doesn't have the Force vision. Like, he couldn't foresee, nothing happened exactly as he had foreseen. Because the Sith Lords are chess players, man. They're not just 3 moves ahead. They're in the 3rd game out of 5 ahead. Right, and he's not that guy. Like, a Sith Lord is going to have the Force vision to know exactly what Kylo's planning to do there when he betrays him. So he doesn't have that. He doesn't have a lot of what I would expect out of a Sith master. So once again, I'm saying that he is like, he's the best at what we associate with the dark side of the Force. So we just kind of assume he's the Sith master, but he probably would not be worthy of the investment of Darth Bane if we would go back a few hundred years.
So we could say that I think then would you say that we could agree that maybe Kylo is a master then looking for his apprentice in Rey? Is that where you're headed?
Well, if he believes himself to be a Sith, that's exactly what he's doing. And the thing is, with the rule of 2, you have to close that out pretty darn quickly, because as soon as Darth Maul's dead, he's got Darth Tyrannus. And Darth Tyrannus manages to live until he gets his Darth Vader when we're talking about Sidious. But I think Kylo is going to start to have a lot of self-doubt as he fails to find an apprentice. I think that's going to lead to him questioning, who he is, or, he can't realize what I think the movie's going to want us to realize. I think what Luke told us in plain black and white is, Jedi is just a name we give ourselves. The Force is out there. Whether there's Jedi or not, there are going to be people who are sensitive to the Force. And it's sort of stupid and selfish for the Jedi to claim that they have like a monopoly on the Force and that nobody else is allowed to do it unless they follow the Jedi rules. I mean, that's what they're telling us, is that all this stuff that we really held forward to is just as artificial as the chivalric codes of the Renaissance in Europe, And
we found out a little bit about that, like, in Rogue One and stuff. With what's his face? What's the name of the character?
Chirrut.
Yeah, I am one with the Force.
I'm one with the Force.
Yeah.
Well, he worshipped the Force as a religion, but I don't know that he was very Force sensitive.
But see, exactly, it's like it takes all kinds. Is essentially what I'm kind of banging at.
But anyway, I think that's what this is trying to get us to. Is what? Let's not be so rigid about this. Let's be real world. How long did it take? Sort of the late Middle Ages to fall apart once technological advancement of the Renaissance hit.
You've got a calculator. I don't know what to do.
But I do think that's where we're going. And I think Kylo, in a way, is maybe going to be a representation of sort of the old school fans that can't let go of the rigidity of the world that Lucas gave us. And Rey is going to show us all the joy that is there if you'll just embrace the world as it's given to you.
You know what? That's actually really smart. I think you're right. I think because this whole thing, like I said, it was that, we're throwing this away, we're throwing that away. Everything that you've all sat around and thought about for the last 2 years, we say, go away, Pshaw with your crazy thoughts and theories and stuff. We are here to give you a story, not for you to give us what you think this story should be.
Exactly, man. And I think I see a little bit of that. And they're killing off the folks from the first. Nobody of note is really left alive from the first trilogy or the prequel trilogy. So here we go. It's what we got to deal with.
There's one person, and we haven't seen them yet.
Oh, Lando Calrissian. Now, let's talk about Benicio del Toro, and let's just say how awesome if the guy on that bunk that was all like in the dirty clothes and rags leaned up and it was Billy D.
Man, that'd be awesome.
Now, when Benicio del Toro showed up in that jail cell on the casino planet, where Maz Kanata sent him to find the guy with the red bloom on his shirt that looked like Justin Theroux doing his best Clark Gable impersonation, man. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. But when Benicio del Toro set up, I didn't know Benicio del Toro was in this movie. Like, isn't he kind of a big name for me to have no clue was in this movie? Did you guys know?
I heard it, but I had almost practically forgotten.
Man, in fact, I so didn't know that he was in it. When he sits up, I'm like, man, they really found somebody that can do a good Benicio del Toro for this role. It's like, that's like a young Benicio del Toro. And then later I was like, wait, he's not so young. And I also like this idea that they didn't actually cast him. He just kind of showed up and started doing this shtick on camera, so they kept it. Like, I like the idea no lines were written for him and that he's just really weird.
Well, you know who they wanted? You know who they initially approached for that role is Joaquin Phoenix, and he said no.
I think Benicio was the better choice. And I really, man, I just get the idea, and I have never met the man, so I don't know, but I get the idea he's really weird in real life.
Benicio doesn't seem like he's from this planet anyways,
Yeah, and I could just imagine, like, 18 years old, going off to college, your first day of your freshman semester, you're meeting your roommate for the first time, and it's Benicio del Toro. You know it's going to be a long year.
I'm just going to be off.
Need a lift? Man, the weird little stammer he did. Like, that the director didn't ask for that. That half of those lines weren't written. He's just coming up with his old bibbly bobbly boop. There we go.
You just let him do what he's going to do.
I go way back with the first door to codage.
Ben gonna be Ben, yo.
Yeah, you blow them up today, they blow you up tomorrow. Maybe. I love it, man. I love that character. He I guess is the Lando of this movie. Kind of sells him out. The only thing I was waiting was for Hux to say I altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. I was waiting for that line to come out.
I fully expected to see him when you see him walk away for the last time in this movie, to turn around, look at the camera, and go, "See you all later," and give us a couple of double shooters and wink and then walk off.
He did kind of do that. He's like, maybe, and then walks off. He gives us almost the wink to the camera.
I'll be seeing you guys in episode 9.
Exactly.
Man, he's going to turn out to be the new general. He's going to take over the role of General Organa. I do like that Billy Lord was a little more incorporated in this movie. I like her in Scream Queens. Now, Phasma, man. A lot of people, I felt like Captain Phasma before episode 7 came out. I'm seeing these pictures of Captain Phasma. I actually got a Captain Phasma action figure over there on the shelf. I really thought she was going to be like the Boba Fett of this new trilogy, and then I was shocked when she was like the Boba Fett of this new trilogy, which is to say almost no screen time, but getting a lot of off-screen love. And she shows up again and still has very little screen time, but we get to see her fight against Finn, which is kind of nice.
That's what I've been saying to everybody, man. Captain Phasma is the Boba Fett of this new generation. It's a character that a lot of people are like, oh my God, it's so great. Look at the design. Isn't that really cool? And the character's nothing. Guess what, Boba Fett fans? Your character is nothing. Your character does nothing. But it does stuff in the comic. I don't care. In the movies,
hey,
your
the
character
original
sucks.
action figure had a rocket that actually shot. That's
yeah,
all
and then it put a couple kids' eyes out. And where did that put us?
Released. Never released. That action figure was never released.
Thus the high value.
That's right.
Now, so Captain Phasma, did she die when she goes down into that fire? Or is she going to be like Darth Vader?
Oh,
rebuilt?
Jesus, I hope so.
We're going to see her. She's going to look like
back.
Grievous when she comes back. I promise you.
Ooh, if she had
I think she's going to be the internal challenge to Kylo's power. Because, Hux doesn't have the backbone to do it. I think she's going to pose the real internal threat to Kylo.
That's an interesting theory.
And do you think she was actually doing the fighting against Finn there? Because I think she might have been, man. She does a pretty good job on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, she does. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that.
And at least we got to see her eye in the movie. I always feel bad for the famous folks that are stuck behind a mask, but at least she got to show her eye.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot more of her in the next one, I promise.
Yeah.
Good. I think she needs to be the internal threat to Kylo's power. Because you need something like that going on.
And you need Finn to have a bad guy.
Yeah, that's I can't wait till we get a third, like, hey, let's look at each other for a couple minutes and then nothing really happens. Super stoked about
what's going to happen in the next one? I think we know that
they're going to sit down and play chess, and it's just going to be like 7 Seal, and we're all just going to want to murder ourselves.
Finn's going to fight Phasma. She's going to be ready to kill him, and then Rose is going to come kick Phasma's butt. We know that's going to happen. She'll probably have some like power suit like Ripley had in one of those alien movies or something, but it'll happen. What about Yoda, man? I was not expecting a nice scene from Yoda. And I got to tell you, the moment he showed up and he's sitting there to Mark Hamill, I couldn't help but just start singing that Seagull song a little bit in the movie theater.
Man, there was a period of about 3 months where that song was in my head every day.
How long ago did that song come out? Because it's been a contiguous period of that for me ever since I first saw it. It's still going on. But man, I loved Yoda here, and I think that Yoda's appearance here might be something that turns off the comic books have done a good job of reforming comic book fandom. We used to have a lot of people in the world of comic book fandom that acted a certain way that you don't see as much anymore. They're more inclusive. They've learned to embrace each other, but Star Wars still has some of the old school kind of difficult nerds.
Completely agree.
And I think that this Yoda appearance that makes a lot of them unhappy and snorting through their nose and wanting to bring back the good old days of episode 2. It's something I loved, man. I loved Yoda. Just, man, I'm dead. I'm going to laugh. You know what? If I got to be a Force ghost, I'm just going to have as much fun with Luke as I can. Cause look at him. He's not in good shape. He's going to be joining me on the other side soon.
You're coming with me.
And I love it that Luke is still a petulant little child, man. When Yoda shows up, Luke regresses. The same way that, like, you can see the way your dad changes when your grandpa's around if they had a bad relationship growing up or something, And Luke lights that flame, and he's going to go over and burn down the tree because he thinks it's going to get a reaction out of Yoda. Yoda doesn't react, so he drops the torch. The next thing you know, Yoda suddenly has Thor powers, because he's calling down the lightning on that tree. And I love it because Yoda's just laughing and kicking his feet back as the tree's burning. And then all of a sudden Luke goes, but those sacred texts were in there. And Yoda, real page turners, were they? You read them all?
I love that where he's just like, look, fool, you ain't got no business on this at all, so shut up.
This is another one of those moments where watching the movie, because I love Yoda in this movie. I think he's great in it. But it's one of those moments where it's like they still can't get Yoda right with the CGI.
No.
Like, they still can't get it.
Oh, I thought it was pure puppetry. I thought they did a pretty good job here.
I don't know what it is. Like, part of me feels like it's going to be like a combination. I don't know, but it didn't look like I wanted it to.
It doesn't look right.
Oh, man, I was hoping he would just call out, oh, are you missing the chapter where you have to yank the kids away from their moms as babies? Do you think we're going to be missing that chapter? Oh, man. Yeah, the book even has the story about that time your dad killed a bunch of kids. Are you going to miss that chapter?
We wrote that one down, too. Ugh.
But then it asks a big question here. If suddenly Force ghosts can call down lightning, why is there even like an issue of battles now? Because, man, all you need is 4 solid Force ghosts. You got Yoda, you got Obi-Wan, you got Anakin, now you got Luke. 4 Force ghosts calling down the lightning on the First Order, and it's over, man.
Oh,
there won't be a tree left alive on the First Order.
This is going to be like Return of the King. They're all going to come off a boat and just start whooping up on everybody that's in there.
Man, I'm looking forward to the scene where you suddenly, and you know what? Throw Mace Windu in there because you know Samuel L. Jackson will do it. I just want to see this army of Force ghosts showing up. They kind of hinted at that with the way Luke, at the end, it's not exactly a Force ghost, but why not?
Yeah, there's a lot going on and with that, with Yoda being able to call down lightning. There's a whole lot of...
he takes physical form. I mean, that cane, that wooden cane actually hits Luke in the noggin.
Oh, I didn't pick up
on
that.
It's bugging me. A little bit of a spoiler warning for my books, the Lump Adventures books, but I wanted to take a lot of Star Wars stuff and give it my own take on it. And I have the equivalent of Force ghosts in that book. And I decided from day one that when a Force ghost shows up, they can kick butt. And now Rian Johnson stole my idea and put it in a major motion picture.
Wait a minute. We've already published this book. This book's already published. So Rian Johnson, get ready to hear from our lawyers. Look, I'm willing to just go whatever on some of this stuff. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I'm not somebody that looks back and goes,
like I said, it's fan fiction. Like, I write stuff and it's just ridiculous to make me happy. I like it when other people write ridiculous stuff that makes me happy. I'm with it, but I can see that being something that the folks complain about. I think
for sure.
Yoda is the best Yoda. The Yoda that we got in the prequels, it was all dour and serene. That's not Yoda, man. I like the Yoda that enjoys just making Luke miserable and laughing at Luke's expense.
He's hitting R2 with a cane. That's my Yoda.
Where's my beater? Man, yeah.
I love that Yoda where he's just this little weird, mischievous kind of guy, and he's just searching around, scrummaging through your stuff, going, it's hilarious.
I love it too. He says failure is the greatest teacher, man. And if that's true, I have learned a lot in my day. I'm still learning a ton about publishing.
I'm learning
failure is the greatest teacher.
So let's talk about Rose and why I want to murder this character.
Oh, I want to hear about it because I love this plucky little. It's like the female equivalent of a man child. I guess a woman child.
Sure. Now we get down. Now, I don't have a problem with her for the majority of the movie, right? But we get down to the planet here. We've got the big giant, death ray, if you will, charging up and everything. Finn's going in because Finn got to do what Finn got to do, and she screws it up for everybody. She says exactly what they want us to take away from this, man. We don't win by killing what we hate. We win by saving what we love, and she loves Finn. I mean, she clearly wants to have a bunch of Finn babies. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. He should have died in that thing. First of all, his character doesn't do squat this entire film. His character didn't do awful. He did enough on the last film, but this movie, he did nothing. She did nothing. He almost saves the day, and she comes in because she wants a kiss. Ugh. Just she's the worst part of this movie, and I don't hate the character. I just hate what she did at this last moment here because it was dumb and it shouldn't have been there. And they're like, well, we needed to have a thing. Just plain.
But
no.
Adam, it's the whole point of the movie is that sometimes sacrificing people is not the right answer. Sometimes the right answer is to make the harder decision, which is to go back and regroup. And that's to be the spark that will ignite the fire. Exactly. That will burn down the First Order.
Listen, Billy Joel. I don't care what. I'll watch it again. Maybe it'll hit me different, but I'm just like, oh, he's going to do the great heroic thing here, and somehow this one guy losing his life is worth the possibility of everyone just getting destroyed.
But do they get destroyed?
No.
Yeah.
And also, I want to point out, you could take Finn and Rose completely out of this movie, and it ends the exact same way.
That's my point.
It's the Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark effect. But just because it ends the same way doesn't mean we don't have fun watching them do their thing. At least I do. You know what? Raiders of the Lost Ark, should it just have went from the opening credits to the end and we didn't follow Indy just because nothing you did matters? No, that's part of the fun of it. Most of my life, nothing that I've done has mattered, but I'm glad I did it.
I bet the hundreds of people that you've helped would disagree, Bruce.
Oh, but you need to ask that one that hates me, and I'm not going to tell you his name. But it rhymes with Lester Kefauver.
So, Adam, I get it. I get why you don't like the character. I get that, why set this up if you're just going to not have that happen? It's my problem with a lot of Star Trek TV. Is like, why have that giant laser cannon behind them as they're talking about how they shouldn't fire the giant laser cannon? I get it. I understand that. But with this film, they're trying something different that they've never done in Star Wars before, which is, look, sometimes you have to make the harder choice. And the harder choice is to not be a hero sometimes and scurry away so that you can come back and fight another day.
Yeah, I couldn't believe I was angry because someone just didn't die. I was like, hey, we saved his life, and I was mad.
I don't know about you guys. When they get to this planet, this is where I fall in love with the movie. The second they get onto the planet and you find out what the general's plans were, who takes over for Leia, like when you find all of these things out, and it all makes sense and it's all great, and now they're down to the last few of them, and they get to this planet and
the clunky speeders.
It's so great.
That are I love how they're just so ghetto and just really broken. Half of them don't have windshields or nothing.
And I love it that they actually found an actor that looks like a broke down Chris Christopherson to stand there and look through binoculars. Like, it would have been so easy just to put any guy up there, but they got a guy that looks like he belongs in Star Wars. The guy with the gray hair, but still rocking the mullet and the beard. He's like Chris Christopherson at his best, only on a bad day.
And it's beautiful. The planet itself is so terrific, and seeing the tracks.
There is a bit of clunky exposition when the guy just puts his hand on the white stuff and licks it and goes, "It's salt." It's hard for me to imagine that any combat troop makes a habit of just randomly tasting foreign soil.
I did think it was. I thought it was super cool how like when they went and hit the surface and everything, and the red was the salt underneath. I thought from a visual standpoint, that was just really, really cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful visual. That's the only reason for it. I mean, there's no real reason to have it do that other than it just looks awesome, and it does look awesome.
I like
throwing up those big red rooster tails.
And it's your other thing. It's a planet of salt.
Yes, it even has the crystal critters. Some planets only have one species of life on them too, like on this one.
I would like to see what a Wampa would do in this situation.
I'd like to see somebody drop off a hut and it just rolls around in the salt like a slug and shrivels up. The huts never go to Salt Mine Planet or whatever it's called. But man, let's talk about Luke's appearance here at the end, because this requires a lot of discussion. We've been going a long time, so I have
a lot of questions for you about this because you've seen it multiple times. So I know that he doesn't make a track in the salt. I know that. because you see Kylo move his foot, and then you see Luke move his foot, and nothing happens. But is there any other
Okay, what lightsaber does he have?
I couldn't tell you.
He has the blue saber that we last saw being battled over between Rey and Kylo before this scene here. So we know that lightsaber is up on the Supreme Leader Snoke's ship, and that later we find out it was shattered in the Force battle between her and Kylo. But as soon as he lights up the blue saber, I know that there's one of two things. Either it's a terrible continuity error or it's a very clever continuity on purpose.
So you knew that straight away that
Yeah, he doesn't have the green saber. He doesn't have the green saber.
Gentlemen, you're going about this the hard way. This was very easy. I looked around and I was just like, how did no one else not know this the whole time? Because
I didn't know.
Because he looks 20 years younger.
Yeah, he is. He's got dyed hair and all that.
He did have the haircut and the different cut uniform, but
because it's the flashback.
I guess if I was going to send out a Doctor Strange astral projection of myself, I'd probably take off a few years.
No. But here's the thing: the way that everyone sees him is the way that they remember seeing him.
Not the way I remembered him.
Not you, the characters, dummy. So when he goes back to see Kylo, that's what Kylo remembers seeing him as we saw in the flashbacks, right? That is what we can assume.
He had great crazy eyes in those flashbacks too. I don't feel like
that's what we can assume that Leia saw him looking like the last time she saw him as well. So he is projecting out to them what their last essential image of him was.
Yeah, but even if you hadn't caught on yet, once they unload all the AT-AT cannons on him, and then he stands up and does the old Jay-Z wipe that dirt off your shoulder move, which, by the way, I loved. My second favorite part of this movie. The first favorite part was drinking the milk straight from the teat. My second favorite part was wipe that dirt off your shoulder. But as soon as he does that, like something's up here. Like that guy's not really there. I thought he was already dead and we were seeing a Force ghost, but we find out he was just he wasn't really dead or merely most sincerely dead. He was just almost dead.
Then between the three of us, I'm the dummy because I didn't know until they reveal it.
Well, it was the blue lightsaber. I didn't pay attention. I figured he gives himself a haircut because he hasn't seen his sister in a while. I mean, if you're going to somehow travel, I imagine he's called up that X-Wing from the bottom of the water. He's jumped in there. He's going to shower, shave, give himself a haircut.
Are the Porgs giving him haircuts? Is this what you're aiming at?
What's that?
Are the Porgs, are they giving him haircuts and shaves?
No,
and
man, they're those weird old ladies that hated Rey. I'm sure they have some scissors around.
I love that the weird old ladies hate Rey. I love that so much.
And if Yoda can call down the lightning, he can surely call down a little clipper cuts. He can get him to Great Clips on his way to whatever the salt planet's called.
Get on down to the salt planet's Great Clips.
But they do also kind of point it out when they're in the mine, and they go, how the heck did he get in here? Even before the reveal that he's a hologram and they're in the mine and Poe goes, well, how did he get in here? There has to be a way out.
Yeah, I knew from the second he showed up and started looking, I'm just like, oh, okay, so he's not really here. He's just projecting into this thing.
And once again, when he walked in the shadow and he hadn't thrown back the cowl yet, there was still part of me hoping that he's going to throw back that cowl and it's Billy D. Like, I come to save you, Leia.
Holding out all the hope for the Billy D.
Man, you never know. We got one more movie where we can get us some Billy D.
I think we will.
I hope
want
not.
Lobot, too. If you give me Billy D and no Lobot, I'm going to ask for my money back.
I will only see it 4 more times today.
He wipes that dirt off his shoulder. And then I love it, man, when he's staring down Kylo. And we understand that the physical fight is meaningless here. But, man, the battle of wits is very real. And it becomes clear that Kylo is unarmed for the battle of wits. But he says all that, and then Luke just throws it back to him so calmly. Every word you just said was wrong, and then points it all out. That's awesome.
So good.
And, Mark Hamill brought more to this performance than I expected because it'd be real easy for him to sleepwalk through this role. And I think he gave it the good old college try, man. He didn't give it Joker-level efforts like he did in The Killing Joke, but he gave it a good effort.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, let's talk about this. His kind of because we kind of skipped over it a little bit. The how his character kind of acts because like his being scared of Kylo doesn't make a ton of sense.
He's not scared of Kylo so much as he's scared of what Kylo will become. He's scared of his own failure. Kylo represents how he let his sister and his best friend down. Kylo represents his father. You know, he's seeing like, you know, I did not want to repeat the mistakes of my father, and I managed to avoid it, but then I just created it in my nephew.
So I decided to murder him.
Well, he decide to murder him.
He can't look, and that's also another thing that somebody else that I heard some other people talking about is that because he did decide not to, but of course Ren thinks, oh, he was going to go and kill me, and from his perspective, he was actually going to do that, and that's what does.
Rashomon. I mean, it's a Rashomon effect,
which I liked.
And I would expect it from Lucas because he loved to rip off Kurosawa. But you know what? Anybody who wants to rip off
I've never heard of
Rashomon.
Kurosawa. I don't know what you're talking about.
But I don't know. If you guys want to just kind of shed a little light on the Rashomon effect, or do you want me to do it?
It's basically a story told from different perspectives.
Yeah, and that nobody's lying. But I mean, your truth. You know, there are lots of truth. And if you only see part of the truth, you don't know the whole truth. And to each person, that's what they see. You know, if I looked up and saw Mark Hamill holding something he could hit me with and I wasn't expecting it, I would be convinced he was trying to kill me because, man, he has some crazy eyes. And I'm not talking about Luke Skywalker. I mean, literally in my bedroom, if I woke up and saw Mark Hamill standing there, I'd be startled.
Yeah, I'd just be like, excuse me, Mr. Hamill, why are you in my room? And he'd just go, shh.
Meanwhile, if I woke up and saw Billy D straight into a fist bump, man, there'd be no fear at all.
I'd be like, where's the ladies that you clearly brought with you?
Good night, Billy D. Bump. Good night, Billy D.
There's room on the twin bed, buddy.
Good night, Mr. Leslie.
I love in the scenario you're sleeping on a twin bed.
With my Lando Calrissian Hoth bed sheets. Mismatched, man. I got Cloud City on top. I got Hoth on bottom. It works. But so, you know, at the end, Rey saves the day. She has to lift rocks, which, you know, you stand on one hand and lift rocks with your special gift. Anyway, she lifts rocks to save the day. And then she's sitting in the escape pod with Leia talking about, you know, what are we going to do? Leia says we have everything we need to rebuild. And she's holding the broken lightsaber in her hand with the blue kyber crystal. And here's what I'm predicting. We all know that Kylo's lightsaber has an abnormal appearance because it was made with a broken kyber crystal. And it had to be vented. And that's why we get those two little vents at the bottom that look like a hilt. Mm-hmm. So is she going to have the blue version of that now that she has a cracked kyber crystal?
I think we're going to see a new kind of lightsaber next. I don't think it's going to be the same thing. I think it'll be something else.
I think it's going to be the exact opposite of Darth Maul's. It's going to be all saber in the middle, but solid handle on each end.
Like a jump rope.
The most impractical lightsaber of all. No, here's what I think, man. I think she's not going to have a lightsaber in the next movie just to even the odds because she so clearly outclasses Kylo Ren in my mind. I think she's going to do everything she does to take him down without a lightsaber. I want to mention this because I thought to me it smacked of smacking George Lucas where Luke literally calls it a laser sword.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I felt.
What am I going to do? March in with a laser sword and save the day?
I felt that was just such a backhand to George Lucas that like George Lucas is so dense that he would never know that was a smack at him.
Well, if Ryan Johnson grew up in my neighborhood and he wanted to throw a jab at the Star Wars fans, he would call it a lifesaver. Because, man, I got sick of kids calling them lifesavers when I was growing up.
No, you're just all wrong.
I got punched in the lip more than once for correcting people on that one.
Thanks, Mom.
You're running around with your lifesavers and your laser swords.
It's a good version of your mom. But no, she's coming back.
Nothing like my mother. She was a saint.
There's going to be lightsabers. You can't not have lightsabers in this. Come on.
She's not going to have one.
Oh, she'll have one.
In fact, they're going to have their final battle, and he's going to say, how are you going to fight me without a lightsaber? Because he suddenly sounds like Keanu Reeves in my world.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
And then she has one in her ring.
And she's going to sound like Mary Poppins. Quite simple. I'm going to take yours. And that's how it's going to go down. She's going to do a little kung fu. She's going to disarm him and kill him with his own red lightsaber.
Yeah. I will say this, just because we haven't talked enough. I think Adam Driver is doing a whole bunch with this role. From the 7th, 8th, he's doing so much with this. And for somebody that was kind of like, oh, I don't really know how much I'm going to, dig what he's doing. He's killing it for me.
Yeah.
And Sean, are the teenage girls still into Adam Driver?
Yes, more so now.
Should we clarify on why you're the go-to source on what teenage girls are into? I feel like a first-time listener might get the wrong idea. True. He has daughters, folks. He has daughters.
I have 2 daughters who are right in that age of Adam Driver's a hunk. And
as soon as I asked the question, I thought I needed to clarify for the first-time listeners out there.
Yes, and he is as hunky as ever to them, it's just perplexing to me. But
I like it with his shirt off. He's bringing back the old man high pants. Now, was there supposed to be like the hint of romantic tension between him and Ray a few times when they're like nose to nose and getting ready to touch hands and stuff?
I don't think so. I think that's more of they're trying to fake you out into thinking that they're brother and sister is what I think.
Or bringing her over to the dark side and like really because she's got a lot of anger in there too, and we don't talk about that. I get
the idea she's a little bit like Jesse Ventura from Predator. He don't have time to bleed. Well, she don't have time for no stinking romance till this is all settled down.
Yeah.
If anything.
Although, because of the way that these movies have been going, because it was a very big surprise to me in the opening crawl to see, oh, hey, the First Order is completely taken over. I was like, what? Yeah. What? That much time has passed already?
And as far as I'm keeping score, the only people that might potentially be brother and sister are Finn and Rose, because they're the only ones who've kissed so far.
Did you guys know that I was going to be in the new Star Wars, but they cut me out at the last minute because I have some conspiracy theory ideas that they don't seem to like too much?
Oh, man, I'd love it if he was Snoke instead of Andy Serkis.
You and
Come
your
down
dark
to the Cow
side.
Palace on July 15th where I take on the Jedi. I don't know, man. Any more parting words? Ray's awesome. I think that episode 9 should just be called Ray Being Awesome, and I'll go see it.
Look, man, I think that Driver, I think that Ray, I think that, even BB-8 is great. I like that there's a bad version of BB-8. I like that. There's so much good in this movie to me.
Yeah.
There's so many, again, there's just so many ideas in this thing where it's just... man, Rian Johnson, you really knocked it out of the park as far as I'm concerned. I understand why some people won't like it because it doesn't feel like Star Wars, but it's so great.
In my parting shot, 2 parting shots, I'll say that Luke didn't try to kill Kylo because if Luke wanted Kylo dead, Kylo would be dead.
Absolutely.
Nothing I've seen out of Kylo tells me that he's capable of much, and Luke at this point is the foremost force-sensitive being that we know of in this universe. So there's no way that if he wanted Kylo dead, Kylo wouldn't be dead. And then also, I just got to applaud that, they cast Daisy Ridley, who has turned out to be a really good actress. They managed to let her act. They're not trying to pretty her up and sell her good looks or anything. They're just letting her be tough and physical and real in a lot of ways. Like this is one of the few female action stars. Like I'm more excited to take my daughter to see this than I would be to the impending Margot Robbie Harley Quinn movie, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Like this, I think is a good, strong woman for young girls to look up to. And I like what they're doing. I like it that they're having fun. So those are my parting shots.
Yeah, there's something just about her that, like, obviously, she's a beautiful woman and everything, but like, just you're drawn to that character. And she, like, whatever she's doing it really well to where it's just like you care about her. And, like, it feels like what she's doing has weight and gravity to it. And I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. But I love everything she's doing. Adam Driver, same way.
And she brings everything to the scene that Natalie Portman didn't. I can't put it into words, but I think it makes it very clear that Natalie Portman, a very talented actress, but just didn't bring something that Ray's bringing, or that Daisy Ridley. I shouldn't call her Ray.
Well, that's because Natalie Portman wanted to get off set as quickly as humanly possible, whereas Daisy Ridley is actually acting. You know, she's not just saying lines. The other thing I want to bring up, parting shot wise, is the music in this movie. You know, I forget how much I love the Wraith theme, and when it comes back, it's so lovely. And the scene where Kylo is going to shoot Princess Leia out of the sky, you hear Princess Leia's theme, and he doesn't do it. And just such nice touches by Williams in this movie. He did a really great job again. What a surprise! Yeah,
who would have thought that guy had it in him?
I know.
And you know, and to think the guy just comes out of retirement to do these movies and these movies alone.
Yeah, but for the next movie, they're letting him go and bringing in Bear McCleary.
I don't get that reference.
I don't either. I'm just like, is that the...
He does the music for The Walking Dead.
Okay, there you go. You could have said, you know, Richard No Pants, and I'd have been like, okay, that's about the same.
He does it for Fear the Walking Dead.
Oh, fair enough then. Well, here on Hero Movie Podcast, we do a lot of things. We talk about this program. We talk about its comic book connections and everything, but we also do something else that no one else out there does, and for good reason. It's darn hard to do. So at this point of the program, we have to ask ourselves, how does this superhero movie relate back to Sylvester Stallone?
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
It doesn't seem like it would be difficult to find a Stallone connection for a movie as big as Star Wars, but you'd be wrong. So maybe you shouldn't make so many assumptions because it makes you look stupid. This week, the Stallone connection is none other than Admiral Akbar himself, Tim Rose. While Tim isn't the guy who said it's a trap, he is the guy in the suit and has played Admiral Akbar 5 times, including video games and specials. Tim Rose comes from Jim Henson's Muppet Workshop, and so some of his credits are Labyrinth, The Great Muppet Caper, and Return to Oz. If you're a guy who wants to work with puppets, you're not going to do much better than that. The guys who worked on DC Follies, they wish they were working for the Muppets. Yeah, there's some bad gigs in there, too. Tim Rose was one of the people who worked on Howard the Duck, but it's not like the guys who made Howard the Duck were trying to make a bad movie. The first assistant director on Howard the Duck didn't pull everyone aside on the first day of filming and say, hey, how about we make this one suck? Tim Rose also worked on something called ABBA, our last video ever, which is ABBA as puppets. And maybe you like ABBA, and that's fine. I like some terrible bands as well. One time I bought a Fat Boys album. But when you work at... But when you work at Henson's workshop, you expect to work on better Muppet gigs, and Tim Rose has plenty of those too. He was Salacious Crumb. He's a droid puppeteer on Rogue One. He played the role of Treasurer from The Dark Crystal. You think that the guys who worked on Cousin Skeeter have a movie deal with Lucasfilm? Because I don't. I think the guys who worked on Cousin Skeeter are still talking about how great it was to work on Cousin Skeeter. Tim Rose's second credit on IMDb is Muppet Designer on The Muppet Show, a TV show that also stars the talents of Yoda himself, Frank Oz. And you know who was a guest host on The Muppet Show? A guy who
Mark Hamill.
Also true. But a guy who also thought the best gift he could possibly give to then President Ronald Reagan was a poster featuring a shirtless Sylvester Stallone as Rambo, Sylvester Stallone. What kind of thing does Stallone do on The Muppet Show? Well, he plays a gladiator fighting a lion, and they sing Let's Call the Whole Thing Off. It's cute. And there's a bit where there's a talking punching bag. That's also cute. This is made during a time when people made TV shows for children that parents could watch and not want to rip their eyes out while watching. Maybe they're making them again. I wouldn't know because my kids are old enough that one of my kids watch nothing but Korean soap operas. That's a true statement. And the other one is now addicted to Game of Thrones. Also a true statement. So there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone connection. Now, L.O. Asti and Slow and Low, let's review The Last Jedi so we can scramble to get our year-end review together.
I'll say this. Years ago, I went to a Star Wars convention and met Tim Rose.
Oh, nice.
Lovely human being. And my brother, we went up to get an 8x10 signed, and I told him, I was like, hey, Mark, tell him to write "It's a Trap" in a word bubble above his head. And he did that. Now he goes, and he stops. When my brother asked him to do it, he just goes, I have been signing things for 25 years, and I've written "It's a Trap" on almost everything I've ever done. No one has ever asked me to put it in a word bubble until just now. Such a weird little thing, but he was a delightful guy. Happy to see that anybody was there, but super nice guy, that Tim Rose. So shout out to you, Tim Rose. Sorry you died in this movie. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get
everybody worried about Leia. No one crying tears for Akbar.
Yeah, Akbar's dead, people. It's a throwaway line, but Akbar's dead, and it's all on account of yous. But you know what's not dead is our patented Robin rating system. Why don't you go down to facebook.com/HearMoviePodcast to check it out? It's right there at the top of the screen. Bruce, what is your Robin rating for Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
Oh, man, so many questions. Where does it stack up is the first thing I have to ask myself, and it's so early to do that. And I don't even want to start toying around with the original trilogy. Clearly, I'm going to say I like it better than the prequel trilogy. Where does it stack up between Rogue One and The Force Awakens? I think maybe somewhere in between those two for me. I have to ask myself, am I too susceptible to fandom? You know, that's something I always worry about with these Robin ratings. I want to be genuine and not be reacting to what other people are saying. I have to ask myself, is this more fanfic than true Star Wars storytelling? And then I also have to ask myself, do I care as long as it's a good story? Does something have to be flawless to get a Dick Grayson? Because this isn't flawless, but it's fun. There's so many questions, but for now I only have one answer, and that's Dick Grayson.
Very good. Mr. Keenan.
That was really well said, Bruce. For me, it's a Dick Grayson as well. You know, I think it's far too early to do a stacker poll on this thing. But I think it's great. And I had a great time watching it. I can't wait to see it again. I can't wait to see what these characters do next. And can you say that with every movie, every Star Wars movie? You know, I didn't care what happened after Attack of the Clones. I didn't care. And this time I really care. I want to know what happens next. I like that questions were answered. They said that they were going to answer some questions, and they did. So it's a Dick Grayson for me. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This movie is not perfect. This movie has flaws. I would say a number of flaws. But at the end of the day, I felt with this the same way I felt with by the end of my first screening of Force Awakens. In that, like, I liked it, but I wasn't sure that I was, in love with it yet. Was it really what I wanted it to be? And having only seen it one time at this recording, I just don't. I'm not 100% there yet. I'm gonna say, I'm looking at a Tim Drake right now, but I feel like it could go further. I feel like this is something that I don't want to say learn to love, but like I said, I think you have to get over your first initial expectations of what you think and what you wanted and what you felt was going to happen. And this movie, of all the other ones, has really stuck it to us the most and said, we don't really care about what you thought was going to happen. This is what's happening. You're going to need to, get on board or get off. And I think more than not, I am on board. So, before our final year-end show and everything, I will see this at least one more time because I need to get the reps in, man. I feel this is a movie that needs to have that several watches in there. And if I know Star Wars fans, and I think that I do, most people are going to see this a couple of times, and so that may color their thoughts upon subsequent viewings.
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
A guess. But we'd also like to hear your opinions, man. If you guys have any thoughts about this, if you loved it, if you hate it, why don't you drop us an email, man, at hearmoviepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And we'd also love to hear from you for next week's program because we are wrapping up 2017, everybody. It's been a glorious year here, and we want to know what, you guys thought was the best and worst and everything. So give us your feedback on our show or things that you've watched and stuff like that in 2017 that relate to comic book and superhero movie properties and whatnot. HeroMoviePodcast@gmail.com. And if you make something lovely, hey, we may read that on that year-end podcast coming up next week. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
I'm heading people straight to Amazon. I'm always talking up Nerd Spawn Genesis, the totally true fiction about Adam, Sean, and myself fighting the forces of evil. With the help of Little Steel, we take on some evil podcasters to defend Superhero Con. You want to go check that out because one reviewer, and I quote, called it the best laughs she'd had in months. So you want to go check that out. $2.99 for the ebook, $7.99 for the paperback. And by the way, whoever you are, somebody bought 3 paperbacks yesterday. That's kind of a big deal when you sell small numbers like I do. So thank you. I like to picture those as the world's best stocking stuffers for somebody. I know that Adam probably bought them.
Hey, Bruce,
his family.
You're welcome, buddy, because I'm the one who bought them.
I knew it. So don't let Adam have all the fun, people. Go check it out.
I'm signing those books as Christmas presents to people.
I love it. You need to get on that bandwagon, Sean. Your picture's on the cover.
I'm going to, trust me.
I'm like,
and you can check out my Dragon books, The Lump Adventures, Dragon in the Needles, Dragon in Gallus, working on Dragon in the Darklands. They have a whole lot of Star Wars influence in them, even though they're fantasy tales. So check those out if you like Star Wars. And also Chubby Wizard, Wrath of the Manticore, the best book you're going to find that has both a Chubby Wizard and a Manticore in it, written by me.
I love the final declaration. Oh, by me, by the way.
Check it out.
Just to hammer it in as much as you possibly can. Sean,
find me at Twitter, Hero Movie Sean.
And my other podcast, The Film Find, at thefilmfind.com. We're going to have some big reviews coming up soon, including another review of Star Wars and the new Guillermo del Toro film, Shape of Water. So keep an eye out for that. That is it, everybody. Join us next week for our end of 2017 spectacular. We're giving out awards. Hopefully people will show up that have been nominated. I don't know if they will this year. This will be year number 3 if they don't show up. But fingers crossed and, prayers be had on this one.
I'm still waiting on George Hamilton's RSVP.
We'll see. We shall see. Until then, for Sean Keenan and Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.